The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio. Keep your mission on your mind and your mind on your mission. This is Mission Minded with Michael Coleman.
And Tony Kurre, we do it again here on the Friday edition, the first Friday of our first week of shows here in Mission Minded. It's a business show. It's a show about Christianity. It's about Michael Coleman, of course, the CEO of the Heart of Alabama Food Bank. I'm Tony Kurre, long been in the radio biz now since 1988 here in Birmingham, since I'm 12 years old, and it's kind of come full circle. And this is a wonderful show called Mission Minded as we talk about the business world through the lens of Jesus. And, of course, before we jump in, we always like to start with a prayer. Michael, my man, take it away. Harder.
All righty. Mighty God, we are ending our first week, and we're just so blessed to be a part of proclaiming your name proudly. Lord, we love you. You bless us. You give us peace. You give us hope. All of our trust, we want to be in you. You've given it all for us, and we just pray that we can magnify and glorify your name through this program. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Big thank you to Mark Davis, who joined the show yesterday. He didn't fill in for you because those are mighty big shoes. But he is an amazing individual. He is an inventor. He's an author. He's a nuclear consultant. This guy's got many, many hats, does Vets for Vets, Habitat for Humanity, you name it, man. He just had a million stories. He had just landed like 3 mortgages for the Towers to Tunnel or Tunnel to Towers organization yesterday. So he was flying high. So I mean, this guy, man, I mean, he's just, I mean, you can feel the light coming through not only the microphones, but also through, of course, 101.1 The Truth and the radio airways. It was just amazing. So great to have him on. We're looking forward to further partnering with him as well. So I always take my boy out. He goes to Clemson. Don't hold that against him. I know we're in a college football town here. Their football team was not very good this year. Their basketball team, not bad. They're playing Iowa later on tonight in March Madness. We always go out and watch March Madness. Roughly 43% of all Americans will fill out a bracket, which is really hard to believe because a lot of people fill out a bracket even if they don't know what basketball is. People doing bracket challenges at work. You see a woman back in HR winning the bracket challenge. I mean, sometimes you just pick it by mascots, whatever it is, but it's just a really fun time of the year for sports fans. Some people would say that this weekend is the greatest sports weekend of the entire year because there are hoops from 9:30 in the morning all the way to midnight tonight. And of course, Alabama got it done against Hofstra earlier this afternoon, 90-70, so they'll move on to the next round. So I thought it'd be fun, because we're fun here, to use some basketball analogies, not only answer some emails that we've gotten through Mission Minded, but also pepper you with some questions about business Cinderellas. Maybe how to be that one seed and stay there. Maybe how to deal with a full court pressure at your job. Maybe how to get more layups as opposed to living and dying by the 3. You feel me, man? You feel me?
Yeah, well, I can see where this is headed, and I'm probably headed for the same humiliation that I experience every year when I fill out my bracket. I'm reminded it's like I'm headed for, if there's 10 million, I'm trying to get right up there between 9.5 and 9 million is usually where my brackets end up. And it's not good, so you can pepper me with a bunch of questions, and I'm more than willing to humiliate myself like I do there. So,
well, I'll take care of the basketball analogy part. You just take care of the business part. I know you're an expert in that area, so we're not worried about that at all. And of course, your questions and answers 941-1011, 941-1011, 941-1011, or 866-551-9933. info.missionmindedradio@gmail.com. Feel free to go to our website, missionmindedradio.com, or at gmail.com. You can check us out and leave us some emails, and we'll get to those. We've got show ideas. We're a relatively, well, we are a new show. We just started this thing. Michael and I kind of put this thing together over the last few months, and we, after having many sessions of prayer and discussion, we said, hey, can we make a difference in Christian radio? Can we make a difference in business radio? We both agreed that perhaps we'd have a nice, clean look at how to perform and do your duties in your line of business and do it through the lens of Jesus Christ. So we hope you appreciate that. First question here is, and I think this is a great question and a great analogy, and I did use AI for this particular question. I know you like to use AI a lot too. But it's a great question because people always say, should you trust the player or should you trust the system? Based on your experiences, and you've done a lot of different businesses, you've done, non-for-profits, you've done regular business, you've owned your own business, you did businesses in the past. When it comes down to it, I think it's interesting in a basketball team, you can get 5 of the best players, but it doesn't mean you're going to win the game. And you can also get 5 guys that are maybe B players, but if you have a great system, you can win a lot of basketball games that way. So what do you lean on more, a great system or great players, or a little bit of both?
Well, in any situation, I mean, to look at basketball teams, we all know you can have great systems. I tend to think of, like, lots of times you'll see like Ivy League schools that are disciplined. They have good shooters, but they don't lots of times have the athletes. They don't have, and so they can go into the tournament. They might win a game. The system's great. They handle the ball well. They shoot well, but they just don't have the beef to be up on the boards. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you gotta have some players. But I've also seen teams with a whole bunch of superstars that play as individuals, and they don't play team ball, and they play outside of a good system, and they're equally as reckless. So I do think from that perspective, you've got to have both. However, I will tell you you'll hear me say, I know over the last 4 or 5 years where we've been doing Mission Minded, you've heard me talk about culture. Mm-hmm. What I've always tried to do is, right from the very beginning, make all my decisions based on the culture I want to establish. There's never been a greater example of that than Nick Saban in the sports world, and the culture that he built. I love the story about after he had been there a couple of years. I think it was Julio Jones and some freshmen came in. So Julio had been there a couple of years, and some freshmen had come in, and they were goofing off in the weight room. And he went over there and said, hey, guys, that's not what we do here. And so you have players who are coaching up other players, bringing discipline to the program because they have buy-in to the culture. And so in a business, the idea is you want to have everybody moving in the same direction, positive direction, and of course that's requires facilitation of communication. It requires teamwork. It requires great work ethic, great attitude, all those things that you're building on as an owner or a leader. And so in that case, I guess I would rather go into an organization that has the right structure, the right framework, because I think you can get people and maximize their abilities in a system like that. And I will also say, it doesn't take long when you walk into whether it's a non-for-profit, a regular business, it doesn't take you long to determine if there's a healthy culture here or a healthy system, or everybody's just kind of doing their own thing.
Amen to that. You know, it's amazing. If you had told me 10 years ago that Luka Doncic and LeBron James would be on the same basketball team, and maybe with another third superstar, I would say undoubtedly they're going to win the championship. Well, we're finding out now that it's not all about having superstars on your basketball team. You could pay guys $70 million a year. If they're not willing to share the basketball, they're not willing to play that team concept, they're not willing to listen to the coach, you're not going to win basketball games. And we've seen that with, the Dream Team to an extent. I mean, they've been unbelievable in the Olympics, don't get me wrong, but when you put that many superstars together on team. The other thing that I think is interesting is when you have a bunch of guys, and I don't know if you've ever done this before, where you've actually gone to a competitor and tried to steal away one of their employees because they're just fantastic. Maybe they're just killing you. You also have to deal with ego. Talk a little bit about ego in that. And at the same time, when you have a really good player, sometimes it's good for a lot of players on the other team maybe to sit back a little bit and let him do his thing. I know when I used to play some ball a little bit, and I knew on a particular night, I was one of those guys one time, I just got hot. I was in the zone, and the coach was like, feed him the ball, give him the ball. Not everyone gets to shoot tonight. This is not Hoosiers. Give him the ball, because they knew I had the hot hand or someone else had the hot hand. Talk about how that plays in the business culture a little bit.
Well, I'll give you a great example. Our food bank is in let's say a lower income part of town. lots of times good employees are hard to come by. But I think the best McDonald's in Montgomery, Alabama is on the west side. It's in it's right outside the old back gate of Maxwell Air Force Base. It is well run. It is always clean. When I go, and I visit there quite frequently. If you saw my midsection, you would understand that. And but oftentimes when I go down there, and just popped in my head from the other day, is you see people who are polite. You see people who are not distracted on their phone while they're working. I saw a guy out there. It looked like a young kid, maybe in his 20s, pressure washing the parking lot and the curbs. And I was walking by and I just stopped for a second and I watched him and I could tell he was taking it seriously. And then when I walk around to the front door, it says you can work, you can start off $12 an hour. Of course, there's no benefits. And or you can be a manager or whatever for up to 15. Well, we start higher than 15 for people that we hire right out of, no education required, all that. We just want people that are coachable. So when you're talking about stealing other employees, I'm like, hey, I want to get, I just love your work ethic. I don't know anything about you, but if you're interested in making more money, and having benefits, come talk to me because, I love what you do. I have not talked to this individual, but he's not the first one I've done that to.
It's amazing you're saying this because we went to a wing place today. I'm not going to mention them because they have not done business with us yet. But we're sitting there and I'm with my son, and this gentleman walked over and he was about in his 20s. And I looked at my son and I said, man, this kid really takes pride in his job. I mean, he was getting after it. He was yes sir, no sir. If he spilled something, he was cleaning up after. He was picking other people's dishes up. You could tell this kid just really appreciated the fact he had a job. And he was working at a sports bar where he get the chance to watch March Madness. A lot of people wouldn't mind working today during March Madness because you get to watch hoops all day and you're making your $12-13. But I told him, I said, Santo, I said, you have to put your best foot forward every time you go out and perform because you don't know who that next Tucky. I was having a good show. Some guy calls me up. He listens to me for 30 seconds. 30 seconds on a Sunday afternoon. He calls me up, says, I'm starting this radio station down in Birmingham, Alabama. How would you like to do afternoons for me? I flew out the next day, and here I am 40-something years later. I mean, you just never know. You got to put your best foot forward.
Well, I will tell you, people come in all the time looking for jobs, and my thought is, okay, if I look at a McDonald's employee who's out there pressure washing the parking lot, I know he's not making. He's making less than what we pay. Our minimum pay is, without any benefits, and his head's down. He's not on his phone. He's not out there smoking. He's focused. You can just tell. Just by watching him for 2 minutes that he's really trying to do the best job he can. Yeah. And so that automatically elevates because in a lot of our businesses, you end up training people on what they have to do. They don't go to college and learn how to do inventory or how to do other kind of things or food safety and all the things that we need people for. What I need people is who care. They care about the job that they're doing. They value their job. And you give me somebody like that, I can put up with a lot of other stuff if I can get somebody who that's their starting point.
Yeah. No, it's great. 941-1011, 941-1011. You want to have any message with us, give us a call. We'd love to hear from you, 866-551-9933, missionmindradio@gmail.com. He's Michael Coleman. He's the CEO of the Heart of Alabama Food Bank. They serve 35 counties in the great state of Alabama. I'm Tony Kurre. I've been doing radio here in Birmingham for years, and I've come full circle. It's time to do some Christian radio in my life, and I'm just so happy to have this show, and our first week has been fantastic. When it comes to basketball, we're making announcements analogies, of course, of March Madness. Everybody's filling out brackets. When it comes to the line of business, does Michael Coleman like to dictate the pace of his business, or does he normally like to play back zone a little bit? You see this a lot in sports. Another analogy where they want to force the tempo. Some teams that really play like lights out, 40 minutes of HE double hockey sticks, they get after it up and down the floor, and they're lockdown defense to the first whistle to the last whistle. Other teams like to see how the other team's going to play first, and then they respond to the dictation of their speed. How do you normally like to do? Are you an attack mode guy, or do you like to see your competition first?
I'm definitely an attack mode guy. I want to be out in front. But I will tell you this. I could make a million analogies using Alabama football and Nick Saban. But one of the things, it was Nick Saban played freshman, but his defenses were so complex. If you played on the defensive side of the ball, it was tough to come in in a spring or just come in the summer and learn the complexities of it. Now, there's some people who could do it, and he would play them, but there was lots of times where either somebody was redshirted or they got to play enough they couldn't redshirt, but you would hear commentators say all the time, okay, he's had a year under the system. So he comes in year two, when you're learning a bunch of complex, how you read players and read plays, read actions, you're thinking a lot. And so it's like, okay, there's just a little bit of hesitation. So you're not able to take advantage of all of their talents because they get stuck sometimes. And so it's that way with employees. When they first come in and they're learning, I can't run faster than they have the ability to understand and learn and grow. But when they've been there a while and they're in the system and they understand it, then it's full court press. We're going to maximize every area of operation. We're not leaving anything to chance. You set excellence in every department and everything that you do, and you go.
There you go. I do want to get into some of the personal things you're doing. I know you're at a Rotary conference. I want to talk about that. Also, you threw some interesting loan information out to me for some loans that went from the Department of Education to the Department of Treasury. I'm not sure how that works out, but I want to get your thoughts on that because I know you're delving deep into that. We also got some email questions. Info at Tony Kurre Radio is where some of these come, but now it's info at missionmindradio at gmail.com or missionmindradio.com. Just check out our website. You can see where you can email us and send your questions, and we'll get to them. Christine in Birmingham wants to know, what are some of Mike Coleman's favorite interview questions to answer and to ask? You've been sitting before. I imagine, since you were in the service, I imagine you probably got some peppered with some very interesting questions. But first of all, give me some questions that perhaps you were asked. You're like, why in the heck are they asking me that question? And then second of all, have you ever thrown at some doozies at perhaps someone that's going through a resume process with you?
Well, what I always try to find out when when I say this, I'm talking about a higher level executive. I'm talking about director level or somebody that's going to be required to think independently, who can take going back to a system and say, okay, here's your left boundary, here's your right boundary, but I'm giving you the authority to execute your responsibilities, and it's going to require you to make decisions. And so when you go in, you have to remember when people come in and they're interviewing, they're going to show you their absolute best. I mean, you're getting the best they have to offer. And that means they've probably practiced, standard answers. What's your greatest strength? What's your greatest weakness? Tell me about yourself, just those kind of standard things. And so you're seeing the best they have to offer. So what I like to do, and I'm genuinely not trying to trip them up, is I lay out scenarios. And what I'm looking to do is see how they process information. And can they be given something that they haven't necessarily thought about, and logically think through how they would respond.
Okay.
And when I tell them, it's not about the answer. It's not a right answer or a wrong answer. What I'm evaluating is when I give them a level of complexity, how do they break that all out in their mind? Do they just react without thinking? Do they can they line the elements up and just think through okay, this is happening. Based on my experience, I would think the next step I need to take is this. And it just gives you a deeper understanding about their processes because, like I said, there's times where things like that can detect. You can detect whether somebody gets paralysis by analysis, and that's something where I was taught in the Army how to do what we call battle assessments, which means, hey, the enemy's coming over the hill. You're not going to have 2 weeks to sit here and think through this. You have to sum up all the facts as quickly as you can. Now, not haphazardly. That's not what I'm suggesting. But you have to. A battlefield assessment is okay. Here's the resource. Here's the problem. Here are the resources I have. I need to decide which way I'm gonna go and start moving in that direction. And so I try to uncover as much of that as possible. And I've had people who give me good answers. They're not wrong, I should say, but it was determined they're not going to be a good fit in our system.
Is there one particular question that you've been asked in an interview process that you thought was a little weird, a little strange? Give me one. I'm looking for some juicy stuff here, brother. I mean,
well, I be honest with you. I will tell you this. I have read more, not personally been given, but I've talked to other people and read as well. They'll ask something like, if you were a shoe, what type of shoe would you be?
Kicking kind.
Yeah.
Or if on your backside.
Yeah. And you're like, what? I mean, it's such an abstract question. And you're like, if you were a cat or if you were a dog, what kind of dog would you be?
Yeah.
And again, what they're looking at is to see how you handle something that comes totally out of the blue. There's no way you could have prepared for it. And they're trying to see in a pressure situation of an interview, how do you handle that? Are you able to come up with a reasonable answer? I guess anything is reasonable, but again, and it's all just to see because people are already primed to give you their best, and you're trying to break through that and see what's underneath that.
Have you ever had to ask someone, are you intoxicated or under the influence of some type of drug right now?
Not on an interview. I have at work.
Really?
No, I have not.
That'd be a question. Oh, in radio, we got asked the question all the time, and of course, if you said no, you didn't get the job. So I mean, that was back in the '80s. But
but you're talking '80s and '90s. Y'all lived on that stuff.
Oh, I know we did. I know that's how we got our jobs. We're doing basketball analogies because it's March Madness, and I want to. It's Tony Kurre. It's Michael Coleman. This is Mission Minded. Keep our mind on our mission. Our mission, our mind. 941-1011. 941-1011. You just mentioned the fact that you like to dictate the pace of your business. So when you go on a business attack, how do you balance going after the easy stuff, the low-hanging fruit, the i.e. layup, or going risky and shooting out from 27 feet and hoping to get a three-pointer? That's the one thing about the Crimson Tide. They won 90-70. You live and die with a three-pointer. That is true. If you're hot from three-point land, that's all you do. They're the only team in college basketball, as far as I know, that shoots more threes than twos. It works for them. But if you're not hot or you're hitting about 25, 26%, you're going to lose. They were hot again today. But how often, from a business standpoint, I guess it depends on what your business is, but how often are you willing to go all in on a project and know that if it doesn't happen, you just wasted 6 months of your business doing it?
I want to make sure that anything I'm doing is sufficiently planned and thought out. And I always say this, there's two different kinds of people. One's not right and one's not wrong. Mm-hmm. But I'm somebody who builds a boat out in the middle of the ocean. And the way I describe it is there are some people who, let's just take the Titanic, for example. You build a beautiful cruise ship like the Titanic, and before it sets sail, they want to make sure that there's fine dining, that the menu's taken care of. They know exactly what they're cooking and when. They've worked out every single detail of the chandeliers, and so it's there for years, and they've thought through every single possible thing that could happen, and then it goes out to sea and hits an iceberg and sinks.
Yeah.
The reality is, my experience has been, I don't care how much time you spend planning, and I do believe planning is very important. You should identify all the risks that you possibly can, and do everything you can to mitigate those risks. That's just smart. But there's no way to eliminate risk. And so the best thing I've done when I've started a project is to start moving forward when I have the framework, when I have the metrics. It's very clear what I'm trying to accomplish. Is I usually start off on a very small scale. And the reason is, so let's say I was going to start a project in the nonprofit world, and the intent was I want to be able to serve 1,000 people a year. So when I start off, I'm not going to open it up initiating it with 200 clients, because if something goes wrong and changes have to take place, because as I've said, you think this is the best path, and then you get out there in the water a little bit, and all of a sudden you see a mini iceberg there, and you're all right, I'm gonna have to turn to the left, I'm gonna have to turn to the right. The iceberg's not gonna stop me, but I'm gonna have to navigate around it. Yeah. And so what I may want to do is, until I get a little deeper out in sea, or get a little bit more experience, or vet these processes a little bit more, I'm going to start on a smaller level. I may start with a group of 20 people, and they're kind of my guinea pigs, if you will, where I'm just testing out my processes, but I'm still moving forward, and I'm going to build it as I'm moving forward. I'm not going to be able to sit back and say, okay, I've spent 2 years thinking through every possibility. I've wasted all that time, and I've seen people who do that and never launch out to sea.
To use the military, because you can use this analogy as well, it's like reconnaissance, right? You send out groups of smaller men before you send out the front line, right?
Well, it's a little bit different. That's when you send on a recon, what you're doing is you're trying to you don't really have your plan yet. You're sending out a recon in order to gather intelligence. And then they come back, and then that intelligence informs your plan. Yeah. So what I'm saying is you don't send out 1,000 troops, out in the middle of the night.
Exactly. You check the land, where they're peaceful at. You make sure that it's safe, and blah blah. But before you send out, before you.
Well, and you could look at it like this. So back in the days, you see in Vietnam, they're walking down a road or they're walking through the jungle, and you would have people. You have to take turns doing point. But the idea is you're spread out. Why? Because the more spread out you are, the less susceptible you are to booby traps, to ambushes, because you have greater reaction time. Rather, if you were all bunched up there together. So, yeah, it's that kind of thing where you start out, you just start out with a few, you're spread out. So if you do have loss inflicted, you're minimizing that loss, and that's all about minimizing risk.
We're using some basketball analogies for an obvious reason, because everyone's been watching March Madness. We appreciate if you're taking some time off and listening to 101.1 The Truth. We're on every Monday through Friday from 5 until 6 p.m. It's called Mission Money. Keep your mind, your mission, your mind. Show Michael and I have been doing for years on the Tony Kurre Radio Sports Network. We thought it was time to get on terrestrial radio and hit some more masses, and particularly since this is one of the biggest sticks in the state, 100,000 blowtorch watts. We're loving this. VCU had an interesting game yesterday. They were down 19 to North Carolina, a team that's been there, done that, blue blood of college basketball for sure, and VCU wins the basketball game. And that made me think, do you play to win or do you play not to lose? We see this a lot. I know you're using some Saban analogies, which is great for the show, and of course people love that. But we see that prevent defense where you're up 21 with 4 minutes left and you're just not playing the same defense that got you to that point in the game. Next thing you know, they have come back. My good partner, Aldo Greco, was actually in that game. I think it was 35-3 at halftime. Ended up losing the game. It was 38-35 or 41-38, I think it was. But anyway, they were down 32 at halftime. They played defense. They just tried to run the entire second half out, and it didn't work. And they let up 7 straight touchdowns. They lost the game. It was the biggest comeback in NFL history. So when you are number one, when you're king of the hill, you're that 1 seed, and you got a 16 seed calling. Do you play defense? How does that change the way you react? And are you afraid to perhaps be too proactive, i.e. the new Coke? When you're number one, why in the world would you change your formula? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, there's a lot of thoughts there. I will say this about the VCU game. I think what the lesson I take away from that is the fact that the effect that a leader has on a group of players. Now, so I've seen people when chaos happens, and I try to be this leader. And just recently, when we had the government shut down, we knew that we covered over half the state, and we knew there was going to be people blowing up 211 and everybody saying, I need food, And so we had to coordinate that. How do we coordinate all of those, hundreds and thousands of people calling saying, I can't get enough food. How do we do that? And so I brought in the leaders of the organization, and we had a talk, and we said, all right, we're going to have to make some adjustments. We made some adjustments. We're not going to panic. We're going to stay calm, and we're going to put good, sound, disciplined execution to this plan. And but one of the things that it reminded me of, because TV stations and all that start calling you, what are you going to do? How are you going to meet the demand? And all this throwing at you. And I'm sure that's what the VCU coach thought. Oh man, I'm down, 19 or whatever. If you start hanging your head and thinking that you're going to be defeated, then if you're the leader, people are going to follow your lead. If you become emotional, and when I say emotional, I'm not saying showing emotions, but I'm saying you can reduce people's confidence in you if you deviate from your normal leadership or your normal demeanor. Now, I know sometimes a coach has to really cut loose and jack his players up and get their head in the game and all that kind of stuff. But I didn't get to see the game, saw a little bit of the replay, but I know that coach kept his people believing. He kept them disciplined. He said, we're not out of this game. Don't start turning it into a one-on-one show and just, nobody be a hero. You play the team game, you come back, you be disciplined, and let's see what happens. And they pulled it off. Yeah. And I really have respect for VCU's coach, because I know that the system that he has, the confidence his players have in him, that translates no matter what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Info at Tony Kurre Radio, also info at missionmindedradio@gmail.com. You can check out our website, missionmindedradio.com, and find a little tab on there, and you can email us questions, you can talk to us, and coming up, starting next week, I believe we're going to be on StreamYard, which means you can actually hear us and watch us live on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, not to mention, of course, Facebook and the X format, so you can actually comment to us while we're actually doing the show. We can see your comments. In fact, you don't want to call at 941-1011, 941-1011. There is something called the 3-second rule. I always got in trouble with the 3-second rule because you're standing in the paint too long. That is, when you're on the offensive side of the ball, and I was always the tallest guy, you can't just stand in the paint for more than 3 seconds, because then I'd be getting all the rebounds, and they could just keep throwing the ball at my head because I was a foot taller than everyone else was when I was in 3rd and 4th grade. So you have 3 seconds to get out of that lane, so you're going back and forth. My question to you from a business standpoint is, when do you realize that perhaps you got something good and it's time to hunker down, or are you one of these business guys that continually likes to move? Do you like to continually move and shake?
Yeah. So I never want to be satisfied with status quo. Now, I'm not a change just for the sake of change guy, but the way I explain it is that you have to determine what excellence looks like. And the reality is, it's near about impossible to obtain and maintain excellence in every single thing that you do in your business or your life. There's always room to improve. And so, again, taking it back into the nonprofit world, or you could do it in the for-profit world with sales. Let's say you're having a good sales month, and doesn't matter what your product is, but all of a sudden things are going good, and you got a lot of money. And a lot of good, so good feelings, good money. You think your business model's going, and you say, okay, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. And you stop looking at your processes, you stop looking at your outflows, you stop managing, your team. You maybe lower your oversight. People start getting lax. They stop being driven. They're like, yeah, these are good times. And I will tell you this, I had a brother-in-law from many, many years ago. This is probably a great example of it. Now, he's an ex-brother-in-law, and I don't want to be unkind, but he wasn't in any danger of becoming a brain surgeon. But he owned a pulpwood company with his father and his uncle. Mm-hmm. And his uncle went and got a truck. Things were good. His uncle bought a truck and, had the business pay for it. And he goes, well, I'm going to go get me a truck and have the business pay for it. And even though I was a young guy, this is probably 40 years ago, I'm sitting here going, man, you are the business.
Yeah.
What do you mean the business is going to pay for it? You are the business. That's money out of your pocket as an owner. But when things were good, and when you're pulpwooding, probably the audience already knows this, but when you have torrential rains for a week or so, you can't get back there in the woods and cut, so you're not making any money. Well, things have been really good and the money was flowing, but instead of taking that and setting it aside, being smart about it, they spent it. And then when the rains hit, then there's no money to pay out and to pay for the heavy equipment and all that. Mm-hmm. So, I'm always looking at refining processes, growing. Now, I will say sometimes it does, if you're somebody who pushes all the time, you need to be in tune with how that's affecting your employees, because some employees are going to be wired differently. They're going to be great employees, but they're just going to be wired differently. And they're like, can we just catch our breath here for a second? Can we just go a quarter without starting a new initiative? Can we just do this and so there have been times where I'm like, okay, this year we initiated the year before several things. So what I want to do is spend the year not starting any new initiatives. I want to drill down in what we're doing to make sure that we're dotting I's and crossing the T's. And so we were doing our due diligence to make sure that we were maximizing donor money. We were hitting the measurements that we wanted to. We were impacting the community as we wanted to. And so we just spent a year analyzing that. But in just the raw form of your question, yes, I always want to push, because I'm not going to be satisfied until there's excellence.
There you go. More emails, info at missionminderradio.com. You go to missionminderradio.com. You can find it on there. It's at gmail.com. It's a great site. You check it out. We're going to be having some articles on there, links on there. Our show will be up there as well. You can link that as well. Jackie in Tuscaloosa wants to know why in the blankety blank 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 are government employees, i.e. senators and House representatives, getting paid during a government shutdown. Why do the TSA people not get paid, yet they do get paid? How can this end? This is a question that a lot of people that don't know how this works. How in the world are traffic control people, people that actually protect our airways, people that protect us from terrorists, and keeping track of flights, and who, by the way, are about a third right now are calling in sick every day, and I can't say I would be doing the same thing. How can they not get paid for doing their job, yet people that are continually not voting things through, whether you're Democrat or Republican, continue to get paid? It doesn't seem right. And if it's already happened once, Michael, why can't we do a new bill that says, listen, our government workers at least should be getting paid when you guys can't get your act together? Can you explain that to me, please?
There is a conversation happening right now. I just saw it. I believe our own senator was making some, Senator Britt was making some comments about it, that if public employees are not being paid because the government has been shut down, then legislators who have caused that shutdown, doesn't matter, the party doesn't matter, should not be able to go home and continue and not have pain inflicted upon them. Because, well, you know, the problem is, the reality is that's a great soundbite, and it's something that we agree with, and you would probably have 80% of Americans, if you polled them, say, yes, that's right, they shouldn't. The problem is the people who would have to vote on that, they would not. And
yeah, I wonder why.
I've seen it in both parties. Leadership is going to squash that because they don't want to force a vote to where your representative, like a clean vote, say, look, we're not going to put anything on it. It's just, let's just do this legislation, and it's only about this issue. We don't want to cloud it. It's going to be a clean bill. They do not want to force their people to have to make a stand, because the reality is they have no intention of passing that, and that's both parties.
Yeah. Well, it's disgusting. It really is, because I'm going to be honest with you. I can remember, this is not even during COVID, but I remember the owners of our radio station, we went through a really tough time after the collapse in 2008. No one was buying any advertising. Usually advertising is the last thing that a business will spend money on. Unfortunately, that should not be the way it goes. Advertising is very, very important. And mission-minded is too. And by the way, you can spend money here on our show. 542-1848 is my phone number. Just give me a call, 542-1848. We'd love to hear from you. You got 100,000 watts of blowtorch in here. We're getting after it. So with that being said, they came to us and asked us if we take a pay cut. And I was like, okay, what's this all about? They wanted us across the board to take a 15% pay cut with no idea of when we were going to get our money back and if we were going to get our money back. And when you're talking about someone, now I was not in this boat, but there were some people that were making north of $200,000 or $300,000 a year. That's a chunk of change. And for the people that are making $47,000 a year, it means even more. Because, I mean, they're already not making a lot of money. And so we finally found out it was going to be for a year or something like that. And, of course, we all voted on it, and we decided to go ahead and do so. I can only imagine what it's like when you're in a position. I mean, why don't we just not pay our police officers? I mean, that's how dumb this is to me. I mean, it's like they've got one of the most important jobs in the world. And could you imagine how many teachers would show up to work if you said, sorry, we're not going to pay you for a month and a half? I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, it really is. And to put them back in that stress job where they're looking at computer screens and everything and protecting I mean, I can't believe we haven't had a plane crash yet. I really can't. I mean, it just surprises the bejesus out of me. It drives me crazy that we can't figure this out.
It's incredibly frustrating, but unfortunately, our politics are all about power. And, I mean, look, the Republicans have been on the other end. The Republicans have stood on what they believe is principle, because when you're in the minority, you use whatever you can to get your point out. They've been blamed in the past for shutting down the government. This past time in November, the Democrats did the same thing. They polling shows that they ended up taking a hit for it, and now, they're doing the same thing. And now you're starting to see. I saw a couple of Democrats who are starting to get really hammered. North Virginia, where you have a lot of government workers, TSA, and then people flying and all the stuff backing up. It's you start getting enough complaints, enough pushback, and then what happens is you start getting enough. The dam starts breaking, and then they end. Look, the bottom line is they're going to end up caving and going back. You
start seeing splintering within your own party, or in this particular case, your own family, or whatever.
Sure, I think they'll get blamed for this, just like they did in November.
Sure,
and just like Republicans have done in the past when they've shut it down.
Reminds me of a relationship a little bit. We've all been in a relationship, and I'm not talking about like hardline stuff like abortion or anything. I'm talking about, I think you should do this, and the person goes, well, I think you should do it, and it's really not that big of a deal, and it turns into this huge thing that opens up all these other doors and these scars and these injuries that you've had in the past, and next thing you know, you realize that you're really arguing over something that's really minimally small, and it's creating all these other messes. And sometimes, I'm not saying all, but sometimes it's just a matter of, okay, I'll take the trash out from now on, and you're done with it, and it moves forward. Yeah. And then you'll find out that the other person maybe will start making some sacrifices for you if you're in a true loving relationship. I'm not saying that our White House and our Senate and our House are like that, but I'm just giving you an idea. All right, very good. You passed the test today, did very good. I'd say you were about a 3 seed right now. I think you won your first couple of games. I think you're a Sweet 16 candidate is what I'm going to go with.
Okay, I'll take it. Now, I'm going to get killed in the Elite Eight.
No, but, I think you're good, man. Well, you know what? Then bring it to the house. We've got about 15 minutes left here on the show. You threw a couple things at me earlier today that, quite frankly, I'll be honest with you, I looked at it and I was like, do I really want to get into this? Because it doesn't sound very exciting. I'm just being honest with you. But I know we're a business show. When you said you want to talk about the oversight of the Department of Education, the Department of Treasury, it's like I was gonna take a nap during that part. But I was like, no, maybe Michael's got something very, very interesting to talk about that, because you're an interesting guy and this is a business show. So it does tend to make us lean in that direction. I want to ask you first, though, if we've got time, we'll get there. What exactly, and I should know this, but you're at a Rotary conference. What exactly is a Rotary? What does Rotary stand for? And why is it so important to our civic groups?
Yeah, so I am. This is I'm president-elect of my Sunrise Rotary in Montgomery. Very proud Rotarian. Love Rotary, and I love civic clubs. So Rotary, its primary mission, it was started back in, and I don't want this to be a commercial for Rotary, but started back in the early 1900s by Paul Harris. He was an attorney in Chicago, and it was really just to get local people together to kind of network. But it's obviously over the years turned into something so much greater. Civic clubs get together, and there is that networking. And I have some of my closest friends are in my Rotary Club. I care deeply about them. But Rotary as a thing does great thing. But the number one thing for Rotary is the eradication of polio. And we actually got it down to where, less than 10 new cases of polio. And the polio vaccination, that we spend millions and millions and millions of dollars every year trying to vaccinate African nations, Middle Eastern nations, who otherwise wouldn't have access to that. But they don't do that. They do clean water initiatives. They do environmental. They do a lot of different things. But at the local level, we come together every week. We have breakfast together. We talk about our activities of how we impact the community. We have through service projects, and our big fundraiser is coming up next month. We do a big shrimp boil, and we give away about $20,000 to $25,000 a year to smaller nonprofits who don't have tons of access to be able to do improvements. to as they serve the community. So I just encourage people. They said something today in membership. They said, well, our district grew at a 12% in terms of new membership, but we lost 15% out the back door. And it's a lot like donors in the nonprofit world. You got to slow down people going out the back door to get them to renew and support you. Yeah. But it's always a challenge. But if you're out there and you want to have a real sense of purpose, get involved. If it's not Rotary, it could be Kiwanis, it could be the Civitan Club, it could be the Lions Club. Many, many great civic clubs, but you'll just find a purpose beyond yourself. You'll have people who are people of faith, although they're not necessarily a religious organization, but anytime you get together and you're doing good for the community, you're thinking outside of yourself, you build meaningful relationships, you just grow as a leader and what's going on in the community, and you just become part of something bigger. So just really
and it's never too
people
late
to take the time to do that. Yeah.
I want to tell you, it's never too late. I'm 60 years old. I just turned 60, and I've always wanted to do a Christian radio program on a Christian radio station, just because I felt like I was leaning that way. It was part of my duty to do that because God gave me this gift, and I needed to make sure I did. And here I am at 60 years old, and it's never too late. The thing is that's funny, and you know this, Michael, the people that complain the most are the ones that don't do anything about it. They'll sit there and they're either complaining about their wife, they're complaining about their life, they're complaining about their politics, they're complaining about the pothole, they're complaining about everything around them, and then they go home, they eat their dinner, they go to bed, and they get up the next day and they complain all about it again. But they don't do anything about it. They don't they don't show up to roundhouse meetings when the city hall gets together. They don't show up at protests. They don't show up at anything to try to move the needle. They just want to complain about it. And so if you're going to complain about something, I had that earlier today. I got a gentleman who's going through some marital issues, and I've certainly had my share. And so he was asking me my advice. He said, don't ask me for advice unless you want it. And he said, I want it. I said, okay. And I said, you've come to me now for like 6 straight months with the same problem, the same issue over and over and over again. And I've told you over and over and over again the right way, or at least the way I think you could probably get to the bottom of it. And doesn't want to make that move. I think sometimes people just like to complain is what I think they actually want to do. So it's okay.
Well,
all right. So, go ahead.
Yeah, just make it positive. I'm all about whatever you're doing in this life. And I know, obviously, if you're listening to Christian radio, you probably belong to a church family or value looking outside of yourself and see the importance and see why that's the good in that. And just a civic club, it may be something you've never thought about before. I get it. A lot of people look at it as the old man club. We call ourselves the fun club. Yeah. And we have a great time. I actually genuinely look forward to going every single Friday morning. So,
all right, you throw something else out. We only have a couple minutes here. Student loan oversight, moving from Department of Education to Department of Treasury, and why that's important.
Let me tell you why that's a big deal.
Spicy for me. Yeah, please.
Yeah. So, look, I paid back my student loans. I remember for 10 years, I was paying $600 a month. I had a little bit of money left to be my father, and I was able to take that and finish paying it off. But there were many months it was hurting me to pay my student loans. But I was somebody that says, I'm not going to default on my student loans because it was personal to me that I've always been taught if you incur a debt, you pay that debt. Now, yes. You may not can do it under the original terms, but you own it and you say, I'm going to pay this, and that's your name on the line and your credibility. And a lot of people, though, over the last several years went through the Biden administration. There's a lot of this forgiveness because they said, wait a minute, I come out of college, you go to college and you do gender studies, and then you're shocked. And a lot of the liberal arts degrees, you get out and you're like, well, I can't find a job. All I can do is work at fast food or some entry level, temp position or something. Yeah. And it's really been a big scam to where they've brought a lot of people in, and they've created these courses and just made it so easy to borrow money. People come out owing over $100,000, and they're like, I'm not making the money to be able to pay this back, and I certainly can't pay it back over the next 20 years. Well, so there was a lot of forgiveness because it was under the Department of Education. Well, as Trump is drawing down the Department of Education, and part of that is he's now transferred the student loan responsibility over to the Treasury Department. Now, why does that matter? Because if in the past people would just say, well, I'm not paying that back. Well, guess what? When the Treasury has it, every time you file a tax return, they're going to take the money you owe them out of that tax return. Every time you, they can garnish your wages to get it back. So those were all things that the Department of Education did not have access to. Now, I don't want pain to be inflicted upon people. But I do think, as a responsible society, we need to shut down that system. And I think that the effects down the road are going to be when people see how much default, the people who are making it so easy, these lending institutions who said, well, the government's going to pay for it if they don't, we're going to get our money back. Those are going to dry up, and it's going to quit taking advantage of 18 and 19 and 20-year-old people who do not know anything about finances, and they're throwing thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars at them, easy money. Yes, that's going to dry up, but I think ultimately it will save them from going into debt and save them from ruining their credit and them getting out of college with saying, if I'm going to spend this money, I got to know that I've got to have a degree waiting on. I'm going to have a job, so I have to have something that's practical, useful, and is going to help me out in life. So I think we got so far out of whack. I love the decision. I love the responsibility it puts back on us, on our society. And I think it's an incredibly positive move.
And the starting point guard for Alabama is making $2 million a year. Where is the justice here? What are we doing? I'm sitting here watching basketballs and I'm seeing these players making millions and millions of dollars. They're 18, 19 years old. They don't even know what's going on, and we got people that can't pay their bills back. I don't know what's going on, man. All right, just a couple minutes here left. It is the first day of spring. I want to tell everyone out there that it is a wonderful time of the year. One of the great things about our state is we do have 4 seasons, and sometimes you get all 4 in one day, which is a lot of fun. But we have had just a wonderful time. And just because we're on spring break does not mean that we're on spring break next week. We'll be back next week with another full week of great shows here on Mission Minded. What do you got planned for next week, my man? You got anything going on? I mean, I know it's spring break for most schools, so it's going to be a little bit more crowded than it normally is because a lot of schools are out next week. But what you got going next week?
You know me. I'm just back at work, head down, doing all the things I normally do. I know my grandkids were out this week on spring break, so they'll be heading back and even getting back into football and their normal activities.
There you go. I'm assuming you do not fill out a bracket.
No, I did.
Guy? Oh, did you?
No,
okay,
I did. I didn't fill out just one. I filled out 2, and it's with my Rotary. We have a Rotary Club bracket that we do for.
Well, give me your
football.
Final Four, brother. Give me your Final Four. Let's go.
Oh man, I got it. Okay, on one of them, I've got the winner. Is Arizona on one of my brackets, and give me just a second. Darn, you caught me off guard.
No, that's okay. And I'll tell you what. While you're looking, I'll tell you.
Florida. I picked Florida as my other one.
There you go. I've got Duke, Florida, and Indianapolis, and Arizona and Iowa State on the other side. I've got Arizona and Florida playing for the national title, and I got Florida winning back-to-back. You know, the old saying is it's better to be boring and right than exciting and wrong. So I know a lot of people like to pick that 12/5, and it does happen. It happened again yesterday. It's amazing, but that's what's fun about it, and that's why we love making that analogy between business and Cinderellas, and we hope you have a Cinderella story to your business, and we hope no matter how you do it, you keep Jesus number one. Make sure he's in your mission statement. Make sure that if you got Jesus in your business plan, you cannot fail. Have yourself a wonderful weekend, my man. I appreciate you. I can't wait to do our show at 5 o'clock coming up on Monday. God bless you, man.
Already looking forward to it.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.